I know what it feels like to hope for a simpler, slower, more connected life, and to have no idea where to begin. Hey friends, I'm Heather, a single homeschool mom of two and creator of Homeschool Info Hub. I think I've finally figured out why I created this channel. There's really two reasons that I'm here. One is to tell the truth about the so-called beloved school system that most people put their children right into without even another thought. I talk about how it actually works and what it actually does to our children and what it did to us. And two is to show you how you can raise your children in a different way at home in freedom. Because when we actually free our children, we're also freeing ourselves for the first time ever for most of us. I've spent over 30 years with children in the public school classrooms, in my own homeschool program, and right here at home with my children as a homeschooling family. After all those years of teaching and homeschooling and unschooling specifically, having my daughter back home and homeschooling once again as a family of three has been amazing. It reminded me of that calm and connected life that we once had. Because the reality is, even having a single toe dipped into that over-functioning world can feel so challenging. Because my focus as being the parent of my two children is to allow my children to be who they are no matter what. And to support that means you really have to step back from that fast-paced world. The thing is that when we start to heal the wounds the system left in our own children, then we can't not see the wounds left in ourselves and heal those as well. So maybe you can relate to being in that middle space, the middle space between the life that you are trained to live and the one that you truly want to live with your family. You can probably see a picture of it in your mind and don't quite know how to solidify it in your own life. The fact is that we're just taught to go, 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 to perform, to prove, to push until there's absolutely nothing left inside of us. So once you see that slower life and realize that it can happen for you, you cannot unsee it. I'm only now in these past few months truly feeling what life can be like without pressure. And I keep saying yes to it over and over again, even if it's hard, even if it means and has meant leaving systems that I never imagined I would walk away from. I grew up inside of the public school system that most of us did. And then I became a teacher. I became a teacher because I was trying to help kids hold on to their sense of self, their beautiful inner spark, their joy, their passions. But inside of that system, it tries to strip that away from them. Repeat, repeat, repeat. I saw the truth of this over and over again. So when my first child was born, my daughter, I left the school system after teaching for nearly 2 decades, and we went straight into radical unschooling with my family. So if you've never heard of radical unschooling, picture the most severe opposite extreme of public schooling. It's based in trust instead of control and based in curiosity instead of compliance. So here's the trick of it all. Even though I've been raising my children in an unschooling environment, I personally have been running the old patterns. I've still been driven by pressure, by invisible expectations. It wasn't until a diagnosis truly stopped me in my tracks before I really could see the big picture of what was still running in the background of me, and that programming, that deep conditioning that I had been born into with my family, with the school system, with society, all of the things that were just impacting everything about me. So even though I was raising my children in an unschooling, radical unschooling environment and giving them pure freedom, And they truly are children who have grown up in freedom. I still have been modeling, no shame to me, but I still have been modeling all of the conditioning that is inside of me. So when we do this thing of raising our children in freedom, it truly cracks us open. And invites us to see where we are so conditioned inside of ourselves that we are modeling for our children day after day after day, moment after moment, those limitations. And so I don't want to live in limitations anymore. I want to model for my children all the opportunities that they can have in this lifetime. And not do I only want to model it for my children, I want to live it and experience it for myself. I'm 5 years out of separation and divorce, and there have been times in the past 5 years that I've felt that I've had to enter into systems to make that full-time salary so that we can survive better as a family. But the reality is it's not worth it. It's proven to not be worth it. And 2 years ago, I started a job in a private school system. At first, it seemed like a good situation. And then I realized very quickly that it was not any different than any public school setting. And so I became a slave to that system. And then I gave everything I could to try to counter what was happening there so that I could support these children in growing up, loving themselves, and living as much freedom as they possibly could in their own decision making and passions and spark in life. I mean, it's really, I've realized now why my teaching positions were always so challenging for me. I was always trying to counter what the system was doing to the children. And so in my attempt to follow what I was expected to do as a teacher, right, so that I could earn a living honestly, because I'm an honest person, I was also trying to counter the experience that the children were having. And why was I trying to do this? Because I knew it in myself. I knew for me how it hurt and harmed me as a child. I've only really understood the full picture of all of this by trial and error and just kind of looking at my life over the past, 51 years, really, because I had to look at my experience as a student myself going through the public school system from 4.5 years old as a kindergartner, right through to college and then graduate program, and then going in and teaching in the public school system for nearly 2 decades, and then stepping out of the school system because I didn't want my children to be affected negatively by it, and then becoming a homeschool mom. I want to say that when you start to see things, right, you can't unsee things. So first I got the big picture of what the school system does in harm to children. Then I pulled my children out and homeschooled, and then I got to see the larger picture of, whoa, there's so much in me that is not in sync with who I am, that boy, I've got to take a look at myself and how I want to grow as a person. And I have to wake up each day and show up how I want to show up for my children. It's been quite a thing. It's been really challenging. And so, but worth every single bit of challenge to break through to this place of really seeing and living the life that I want with my children so that I am showing them a map for what they can live with their own families when they're adults. But not only that, here I am on my map. The best way I can describe this is I think that I am parenting my 2 children and my inner child all at the same time. I'm sure many of you can relate to this, but I am nurturing myself and giving myself everything that I didn't receive as a child. All of that unconditional love. I'm seeing myself, I'm hearing myself, and I'm simultaneously doing that with my own children. Now, the fact is that breaking through the trauma in myself and breaking through the conditioning It's hard. Part of what I've had to really experience over the past 5 years since separation and divorce is that I kept feeling like I needed to go back into the system so that I could earn enough money to survive, right? I mean, I just kept going to that, like those conditioned beliefs that I must strive and work harder, push, 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 push. Doesn't matter that this vessel that I'm in needs to be nurtured and cared for and slower paced. This isn't just about education, it's about your whole life. So the change begins in us. When we slow down and we notice ourselves and we live through intention, we're not just creating a better rhythm for our children, we're actually creating a better rhythm for ourselves. Here are some suggestions to help you to slow down and notice how you might be living and running on sort of this autopilot mode. Okay, number one, notice your pace. Where do you still feel rushed? Where does the day still feel like you're like running this kind of race? What I like to remind myself is that if I'm pushing, then that's my red flag because nothing needs to be pushed. If I see myself pushing, then I will stop and retreat and save it for another day because there's a reason that I'm pushing to get something done. It's just a program that's running in the background. Number two, question those shoulds. Every time you hear yourself say, I should, you want to pause and ask yourself, whose voice is that? Because it's likely not your own voice. Nothing needs to be done in should. Number three, redefine learning because learning happens all of the time. When children are exploring, resting, imagining, building, learning happens all of the time. And if that feels like an untrue statement for you, finish a day, take a piece of paper and jot down all of the ways that just you learned in that day. Truly, be honest with yourself. What kinds of things did you learn? Because I would guarantee that you learned at least one thing in that day, if not more. Especially where we have tools like YouTube. YouTube allows us to, well, when my dishwasher breaks, I don't call a technician. I actually try to do it myself first. So I go onto YouTube and I find the video that is going to teach me about that specific problem. And if I can do it, I do it. So in the technology age that we're in, we have learning at our fingertips, truly at our fingertips on our phones all of the time. Number four, create rhythms. Each individual in your home will have their own unique rhythm. And you as the adult in your home, you can have the broader scope of the rhythm of the family while also tuning into the rhythms of your children and yourself. The parent gets to hold that larger umbrella of connection throughout the whole family. Simply just let connection be the structure. And number five, keep asking what feels true. What feels true for your family? What feels true for your individual children? What feels true for you as a united front? What is it that you want for your family? And just keep questioning and moving through and pivoting and pulling away from the tug of the systems that pressure us, right? Just keep believing that you can have more for your family and following through on that. These small shifts don't just change our children's days, they change the whole trajectory of their life, and they change ours as well. Because the way that we live becomes the model that our children carry forward. When we choose presence over pressure, we're teaching our children and ourselves what real freedom feels like. I'm 30 years into being an educator and then a mom. And here's what I've learned. We're not going to fix the public school system, and fighting it doesn't change anything. But what we get to do is stop letting the public school system define us. We get to live differently, on purpose, with intention, from the inside out. If you are personally ready to step into more freedom around your children's learning life and your family's learning life, I offer donation-based support for families through Zoom. You don't have to do this alone. I have lots of experience, and you can begin right now where you are. Thank you for spending this time with me today and choosing to look at life differently. Together, we're remembering what it means to live in freedom, even while the world around us keeps performing, over-functioning, and striving to fit in. We can live differently. Thanks so much. Have a beautiful day.